And jinn is apparently translated as rich people. But I don't see any...
Give me the verse, first quote that verse, then I'll
bring
answer
it next time, sir.
Next time, then I'll answer next time.
Sorry about that. This question which I was asking, sir, is related with this one. What the history says about the Muslims. I mean, apparently, how they arrived in India to start with. You see, and could you kindly tell me, when they came to India, were they taken as refugees or as traders or as preachers? What the history tells us?
And we have not used the word conquerors. They might have come as conquerors, couldn't they? Like, you don't know the history of sin?
I want to know, sir, if you kindly explain how Islam came to India. How Islam reached India.
That is irrelevant, this question. How Islam reached everywhere else. That is the basic question. Islam reached through preachers, through Da'in ilallah. Those who had their own trades, their own pursuits in life, and they traveled abroad, and wherever they went, they spread the message of Islam. This is the history of the spread of Islam in a nutshell. And there is also a political history which is running simultaneously parallel to this history. And there are some wars, and some areas were conquered, like Muhammad bin Qasim conquered a part of Sindh, and similarly other conquerors came from the Persian and Kabul, Afghanistan regions, etc. And they conquered certain parts, and also they came from Mongolia, and because they were already Muslims, so they created Muslim empires. But they are two different things altogether. The history of empires runs parallel to the history of preaching, and not only they are different, they are completely independent of each other. No Muslim empire in India is ever known to have established a system of preaching and conversion among the non-Muslims. So this allegation or this confusion about the spread of Islam in India is totally invalid. The fact is that most of in the early parts, most of the people who carried the message were independent by Allah. They preached on their own independently. And some great scholars and Sufis and saintly people also appeared in India, having been born there. And some migrated. They were well-known scholars and highly respected saints from other parts of the world, close to India, who migrated to India for this very purpose, again on their own. They were not supported by any governments. And they became instrumental in the spread of Islam in various regions. So this is how Islam spread not only in India and everywhere else. In places like Indonesia, Malaysia, and other Far Eastern countries like China, there is one difference, that only one channel is known to have flown there. That was the channel of preaching. And no conquest was ever made in the history by any Muslim emperors in these regions. There is a total lack of that parallel thread, as I mentioned. So up to India you find both these channels running parallel. That is the conquest by some Muslims and the preaching by some preachers. But here the conquest stopped. It didn't go beyond India. Neither in Bengal, nor in Burma, nor in Indochina, nor in Indonesia, and so on and so forth. But as far as the spread of Islam is concerned, it was not in any way adversely affected by the lack of empire or lack of conquest. In fact, Indonesia has become almost entirely Muslim, where there was no Muslim rule, no attack by any Muslim country. While Hindus are known to have attacked, they have been attacked by India and outsiders at various times of history. But Muslims never attacked Indonesia. And what do you see here today? They are much greater in proportion in Indonesia than in India. So this allegation that Islam spread through sword, either in the early part of Islamic history or the later part of Islamic history, is proved totally wrong if you begin to study the parallel channels and begin to see that at times they are not parallel, just one channel is cut short and the other continues to flow. And it is not dependent on the other channel at all for its flow and for its spread. Yes, please.
हज़ूर मेरा क्वेश्चन उर्दू में है, अगर इजाज़त हो तो। ये सूरत, तीसरी सूरत में 85 नंबर पर ये लिखा है कि और जो शख्स इस्लाम के सिवा किसी और दीन को इख्तियार करना चाहे तो वो इससे हरगिज़ कबूल नहीं किया जाएगा। मैंने ये अज़ाला अवाम से ये नोट किए हुए हैं वैसे। अज़ाला अवाम और ये दूसरा लिखा हुआ है वो तीसरी सूरत 113 में, क्या अहले किताब में से एक ऐसी जमात भी है जो अपने अहद पर कायम है, वो रात के औकात में अल्लाह की आयतों को पढ़ते हैं और वो नेक हैं और वो नेकों में से है।
There is no contradiction. In fact, the word Islam is used in wider connotations as well as in limited connotation. The word Islam means the religion revealed to Hadhrat sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that is its particular name. And the word Islam also applies to all previous religions in its true meaning, that is submission. So if anybody has submitted to the will of Allah, he is called a Muslim according to the Holy Quran repeatedly. Not in one instance, but repeatedly everywhere, he is described as a true Muslim. So these types of Muslims are found in every era of history, everywhere in the world. So when Islam says, without submission, Islam, nothing would be accepted, then when the Holy Quran says that, it means essentially that without true submission to the will of Allah, no faith would be accepted, whatever the name be. Deen lan yuqbala man yabtaghi ghayra al-Islam deenan falan yuqbala minhu. If anyone without submission to Allah, without true submission to the will of Allah, presents any other faith, it will not be accepted, it will be rejected by Allah. Now this is applicable not only to the time of Hadhrat sallallahu alaihi wasallam or the times afterwards. This verse is applicable to the prior times as well. This is exactly what the Holy Quran has been saying all through. So if there are other followers of other religions in the world, like the Ahl Kitab have been mentioned, and the pious ones among them have truly submitted to the will of Allah, then there can be two possible situations. Either Islam has not reached them, that is now the Islam which we know as the religion revealed to Hadhrat as such, or it has reached them. Now in either case there will be no contradiction. If Islam has reached to a person who has already become the Muslim in the eyes of Allah, he will not reject it. That would be the test. The moment he rejects it, he cannot be a true Muslim, because the essential meaning of Muslim is the one who has submitted to the will of Allah and he does not care what the name of his religion be. All that he cares for is the will and pleasure of Allah. So if among